Hey everyone, Daedric here. With the recent patch and the resurgence of monster sets and all sorts of parse setups, I want to do a video on the different DPS monster sets and compare them, see how well they do against each other, and basically try to give good recommendations as to what monster sets to use. So what I did was I did individual parses with each of the monster sets on Necromancer, and then I took the parses and then the damage and crit from CMX and put them in a spreadsheet just so that I could compare them. In this video, I'll go over the spreadsheet, explain it to you so you understand it, and talk about what sets are good for this patch. Okay, so here's a quick rundown of the spreadsheet. So first column, you got your name of the monster set, pretty self-explanatory. And you got the DPS it does in CMX. And this is the crit that the set has in CMX. The complicated part is that Maw of the Infernal and Stormfist are multi-hit, so we have to take each piece separately and calculate it, and add them or average them. So we just do that on this sheet and then bring it back. From there we get the normalized DPS, which essentially is how much DPS would the set do if it was doing 0% crit. This is to remove the crit variance to make it a more fair comparison. The problem though is that there's a certain set that doesn't crit, so it looks like it does a lot better than the other sets, so we have to do an additional step, which is what this is. Basically, you take the 0% crit damage and then act like it was 60% crit. And that way it's a way more fair comparison. And additionally, we just have extra information, like is it AoE, the one piece bonus of the set, and if it has any other effects worth talking about. Alright, so now that the spreadsheet's been explained, what's the best monster set? Well, obviously the first thing we look at is just the DPS it'll do, so go ahead and just highlight this column. And as you can see, Stormfist is like considerably above every other monster set. Like, next highest is Selene, it's above it by 1,000, which is a lot. And then from Stormfist, you got Selene doing 5,800, which is surprising because you never really see Selene used now. So I was kind of surprised to see it do that much damage. And from there you got Maw, Iceheart, Kjolnir, Zahn, Narainit, Valken, Krog, Veli. One thing to note with Maw, Zahn, and Valken though is that they all have burning procs, especially Zahn, which the proc's burning like every time it ticks. So the actual damage of those sets is probably higher than what this would imply. Like, I know for Zahn I checked, and it seemed to give anywhere from like 1 to 2k extra DPS on burning. So Zahn, honestly, is probably like up here right next to Selene. And I imagine Maw especially is probably like easily above 6k DPS. So if we're just going by raw DPS, Stormfist or Zahn are probably the best options. But there's another factor to consider here, which is their one piece bonus. Stormfist has a very bad one piece. Like, nobody wants stam recovery. And then Selene, like, if you're playing stam, then the max stam does give you extra damage, but you're also not really building for max stam a lot of the time. You're usually focusing on weapon spell damage. Same deal with Maw of the Infernal. Like, it's good on a Magicka character, but there's better options. Crit chance is probably your best one piece, just because 657 crit is about 2.5% crit. Which, if you're saying a max crit damage, that's like probably a 3% DPS increase. And weapon spell damage isn't far behind. I think with like all your modifiers, you're talking about like a 2.5% damage increase with that. Crit chance and weapon spell damage are your best options. And then with that in mind, like, Zahn just becomes that much better because it gives you crit chance. Like, it does really high DPS for easily over 6k. It gives you the crit chance. And it's got an AoE component to it now. It's not amazing because it has to be between the tether, but it's pretty good. Personally, I wouldn't use Selene just because, yeah, building max stam is almost never good. At least with Max Magicka, any Mage's Guild abilities you slot will scale with it, so it makes it slightly better. Another thing is that if you're on Sork, Maw of the Infernal gets buffed by Daedric Prey, which easily adds like 2k DPS to it, making it like monstrous. So if you're on Sorg, definitely go Maw. Otherwise, I don't think any of these other sets are worth talking about. Like, Iceheart's good if like you actually need the damage shield, but at that point, if you need the damage shield, then it's probably going to be breaking a lot, which makes it do less DPS, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. Kjolnir, I'm not sure on Kjolnir. Like, from what I understood, it should be a lot better than it is. Maybe there's something wrong with my testing methodology. I'm open to that being wrong. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed, honestly. I figured it would be like around where Selina's or better. And the rest of these sets I kind of just tested as a joke. These used to be good sets, but recently they just get outperformed by like literally everything else. Although I will say that Valken Krog's One Piece is nice, especially in fights where you have like a lot of trash and it won't necessarily be at full penetration. But at that point, like I wouldn't recommend the like full set itself, just only the One Piece. So based on the previous spreadsheet, I decided to make a tier list of all the monster sets to give you an idea of where I feel like they rank in the meta. Before I get into it, just know that this is my opinion. Maybe things I don't know. Some weird interaction with the set, like, I don't know, Krog, where it does something stupid and does like quadruple damage it does on the dummy. You never know. There might be something funny like that. So yeah, let's start off at the top. Zon. Yeah, it's a great damage, has the AoE component to it, guaranteed burning procs, and it only requires you to be in melee. It does have the downside of taking forever to do all the ticks of it, so if you're in a fight where you're constantly moving around that might break beam, might want to consider using another monster set. And then we got a Iceheart here. Iceheart's also really good with the one-line crit, and if you're not breaking damage shield, then it ends up being pretty nice damage. And if you do need a damage shield, well, guess what? You got extra survivability. It's a pretty cool set. Stormfist, I would honestly put S tier for trash, but this is like overall, so put down in A tier. It does a shitload of damage. Only problem is that the One Piece is pretty bad. Kjolnir, despite it performing low in my test, like I've seen other parses where it does really well, so I'm still inclined to put it in A tier. The only thing to remember is that it's not AoE and only one person can use it. So if you're going to use it in a raid context, make sure that you're the only person using it. Maw, I put in A tier because pretty good damage. Its one line is okay. The fact that it has the burning proc makes it do pretty good damage. And if you're a Sork, then obviously this probably goes up to S tier above Zon. Like, if you're a Sork, definitely run Maw, otherwise it competes with the rest in A tier. And Ryan's in B tier because it has a good One Piece with weapon damage. The damage itself is okay. If you have like a spam bull that multi-hits, then it becomes a lot better. Celine's also in B tier. It does good damage. Its one line isn't great. Like I said before, not really building in the max stam, and there's no like skill passives that give you max stam. So it ends up just being like a worse Maw. Veldret would be D tier except for the fact that the 3 orbs that it shoots out can't hit multiple targets. So if you're in a rare fight where you can actually hit all 3 of them, then its damage is like ridiculous and it might go up to like A tier, S tier, honestly. But those fights are pretty rare. I wouldn't consider this usable in most contexts. And then Valken and Krog are just pretty bad. Don't use them. If you're going to use them, just use their One Piece. And yeah, that's the entire tier list. If this content was helpful or you have any questions, be sure to drop a comment and I'll get to it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.